Hey everyone, I'm back. My name is Sharon Z, and I am a pricing strategist for the jewelry industry. And I'm going to share with you today my three tips, my three core tips for pricing that have nothing to do with a formula. So, this is where I might start off a lot of my client work. This is where I've started off some of the classes and workshops that I've done in the past. And it's the step that you take after you've done all of the math. And sometimes it's the step that you take before you do any math. So let's dive in. I'm going to start with these three core tips. So start here. And feel free after I say each one to pause, literally hit pause on this video, and actually write down your answers because this is going to help you define so much about your own pricing strategy, which, by the way, is going to be different for every jewelry designer. So, number one, who is your audience? Sometimes we refer to this as a consumer profile, which might include demographic information like gender, race, age, income, region, right? You can definitely do that, but I also like to add in their concerns, their interests. What other things do they enjoy buying? What other interests do they have? Do they like hiking or swimming? Do they like sitting at home and reading a book? Do they like supporting their local libraries? All of these ideas are going to factor in to make up that picture of your ideal customer. And don't be surprised, by the way, if you come up with more than one profile. I actually find that for a lot of jewelry designers, you can have multiple profiles. For instance, there might be one profile for somebody who's going to come to you for engagement rings and wedding rings. That can be one consumer profile. Another consumer profile might be for somebody who is self purchasing things like earrings and necklaces for fun. You might need to develop two different consumer profiles. Within that, you might also need the gifting profile, the person who's not purchasing for themselves or for themselves to wear and enjoy, but for somebody else. So spend a moment, hit pause, and write down some facts that you think are true about your ideal audience. Okay, ready for question two? Question two is, where are they shopping? So this is going to get a lot more specific. Are they shopping in brick and mortar stores? If they like to shop at brick and mortar stores, where? In a vibrant downtown area or in a suburban sleepy strip mall? Where do they like to shop? Do they like to go to craft fairs? Do they like to go to art fairs? Do they like to go to street fairs? Do they only like to shop online? If they like to shop online, where do they shop online and how do they find what they like to shop for? So hit pause again, take a moment, and write all of this down. Okay, number three, you might have jumped ahead, totally fine. Does your brand speak to them? When we talk about brand, a brand is often considered to be a promise to your customer, a promise about what it is that you do and what values you hold and how you intend to follow through for the future. And yes, oftentimes this is portrayed in a visual way through your logo, through the colors that you use, through the font and typeface that you use. And sometimes it's a verbal promise where it's about your mission statement. It's about how you show up. It's about what you say on social media. So, branding can mean a lot of things, but at its essence, it is a promise to your consumer. So, this is going to be somewhat deeper work. You may need to come back to this section, and that's totally fine. But you'll want to step back and objectively review your brand. Now that you've identified some consumer profiles, now that you've identified where they like to show up, now you need to go back and take a very, 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 very strong look at your brand and ask yourself, does your brand meet your ideal customer? And does your brand meet your ideal customer where they are and where they like to shop? All right. Why is this important? Well, who your customer is can give you a better idea of how you're going to sell and who you're selling to, and maybe even what their budget is. In the process of doing some of that demographic information about your ideal consumer, you might be identifying what their annual salary is, or where they live, or how much their house costs. That can go into informing maybe where their price resistance is, or if they have no price resistance at all. That's going to be important information for you to understand about the psychology that they work their way through when they are making a purchase. The reason why it's important to know where they show up, well, if your ideal customer only shops in person at brick and mortars, guess what? You will need to meet them there. You might need to open up a store. That is definitely something that a lot of independent jewelry designers have been doing in recent years. Or you might have to, if you haven't had a wholesale program before to sell directly to stores and galleries, you might need to start doing that. You might need to start attending trade shows and doing gallery and store outreach, or you might need to show up on platforms like Fair and IndieMe. But you'll need to identify if your ideal customer is only shopping at stores. Alternatively, if your ideal customer, if you think that they are at some of the major art fairs or craft shows, you're going to need to apply to some of those. And of course, if your ideal consumer really loves sitting at home in their pajamas and shopping online, and really who doesn't at this point, you'll need to consider how you show up online and where. If your ideal consumer is only shopping on Etsy, you might have to sell on Etsy for a little bit until you can convert them into e-commerce clients. It's not a route that I always recommend, but it might be the route that you'll need to take to develop your sales strategy on top of your pricing strategy. If your customer only likes to shop online, how are you going to make sure that you're attracting the right customer to you and understanding how they're searching and how they'll find you? And lastly, I mentioned your brand is a promise. Does your visual and your verbal brand speak to their concerns, their fears, and their desires? If your consumer is a little bit price conscious but willing to spend, does your brand speak to the quality and longevity of what you're doing? If your consumer primarily shops at places that are focused on responsibility and fair trade, does your brand match their values? And are you speaking enough about your values to your ideal consumer? All of these ideas you're going to take to start building a pricing strategy. And it's all going to factor in. It might feel a little bit abstract for right now, especially if you're at the beginning. But as you do this practice, as you go through this, you're going to learn so much about your customers that you'll be able to start building on some of these basic blocks of building your pricing strategy. Thank you so much for joining me. As I mentioned, I'm a pricing strategist to the jewelry industry, and I also do have a pricing course for sale. I'll drop a link to it in the description of this video. In that video, you get formulas, more exercises about identifying your ideal customer, and ongoing support in the comments. So I will drop a link there and let me know what you think by dropping your comments. Thanks so much.